Hey friends, fighting my strap down here at my knees, but you can't see that. You would have never known if I didn't tell you. Gonna try to continue to make some of these videos from our class, and I think I need to focus on that a little bit better. This one is going to be rehashing the nonsense scale. Nonsense scales are, a scale is any group of notes played consecutively, and they're a predetermined set of notes. There's different kinds of scales. There's a major scale that would be there's a minor scale. There's different kinds of scales. A nonsense scale is a set of notes. It's a predetermined set of notes, but it's nothing. It's a big nothing burger. It doesn't make anything. But it's good because most of the scales that you're going to do, they usually only do 3 fingers on a string, sometimes 2, sort of unpredictable 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4 in terms of the fingers. A nonsense scale gives you looks at different combinations that your fingers won't normally do in a scale. So it helps your dexterity. It helps you, when you're changing chords, even, you're moving your fingers differently. So you just develop strength in the fingers. It helps you keep that pinchy pinch thing that we did the other night. But anyway, it also helps you, practice getting the pick and going the down ups just like a strum. It's just not a whole thing. The other advantage to nonsense scales, not the other, but when you're holding your pick for a strum, a lot of times you might be tempted to hold it kind of like at the tip because that gives it a lot of flexibility when you're strumming. And that's a bad way to hold it anyway, but let's say you're doing it right. But that's bad for flat picking because you don't really have a lot of strength and you're not really close to the strings. So you're bound to make more mistakes. So when you're doing your scales, you're liable to, and what I would do was I would start to shift my pick because I found that when I was holding for strumming, it didn't work quite as well for going with the scales and giving a good tone on the string. So, if you always practice strumming, you probably start to hold your pick in a more like relaxed, more of the pick out situation. If you do all scales, you're liable to choke more of it up and only have a bit more of a nub because it's a little bit more, it's a stiffer way to hold the pick. And that's what you kind of need for individual flat picking. But if you do them both, you're more likely to begin to learn to hold your pick in a way that's in an average for both of those. So for me personally, Ryan called me out. I do hold my pick in 2 different ways. But when I'm in my best technique, when I'm really trying when I really am trying to do my best technique for strumming patterns and for flat picking, I hold it the exact same way. And I can go back and forth between flat picking stuff and strumming. I'm holding the pick the same way. So nonsense scales are good. They increase your technique in all of those different kinds of things. So a nonsense scale we did on Wednesday, we did a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So the first thing to keep in mind with your nonsense scales is when you're playing any scale really, or chords most of the time, you want to keep your thumb right in the back of the neck because that gives you the most pinching power. But also, I don't know if you can see a good example, but when I have my thumb on the back of the neck, I can really curl my fingers or like get my finger digits perpendicular to the neck. And that gives me a lot of room. There's a big space in between those fingers. If I start to wrap my thumb, there's no space in here. And so this just allows you a lot more flexibility and freedom to move your fingers. So keep that thumb in the back of the neck. Also, when you're doing any scale, nonsense scale, you want these notes to ring out as long as possible before the next one. And you don't want there to be any buzzing. You want to pinch hard enough to where there's no buzzing. Okay, that's bad. Bad habits. And what you also don't want is disconnected. It's all stopping between. You want them nice and smooth and connected. Okay, so the one we did on Wednesday night was a 1, 2, 3, 4, where you're just starting with the lowest string and going all the way up and then back down with that pattern. 1, 2, also down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Always do that. Nonsense scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And then back down. So I would do it like going too fast. I would be. Just go over and over and over and over. Okay, so you're just going up and down and up and down and up and down. Same pattern, okay? What I'm going to try to do right now is I'm going to do an example of how you should work through these, okay? So I'm going to pick a nonsense scale that I'm not as familiar with, or maybe that I haven't done in a while. I do these, but anyway, so maybe like what if I even just did like a basic 1, 2, or 1, 3, 2, 4. So I always want to be with the metronome. I'm going to start it at 90 beats per minute. It's been a while since, let's say it's been a while since I've done this, or I'm new, I'm sitting in your shoes and I'm really trying to, I've got this sitting on 70 beats per minute. Okay, so, wow, that took a while to change. Okay, whatever. I would go really, really slow at first, but in time. You want to be always with the metronome if you can. Actually, I might speed that up and go in between, or wow, catch up, buddy. There you are. I'm going to skip, so okay, you can do whatever the rhythm you want, but the metronome's helping me keep on time. Okay, so I'm going to go uber slow, and I'm going to make sure they're long and connected. So that's 1, 3, 2, 4. 1, 3, 2, 4. 1, 3, 2, 4. And I'm gonna keep going. I would just keep that going up and down the neck, up and down the neck. Okay, here's what I would say. When you're struggling, or when you're learning, and all things are a struggle, or even when you're in my shoes and you're learning a new chord and it's not any shape that you've done before, you really have to train your body. Here's one thing I would do. When I start out anything that's new and that I'm not familiar with or not really good at, I would go uber slow to where you're almost predicting, like I'm about to do the 2, and you're predicting the next and being prepared. You're like preparing for the next note before you actually hit it. I'm getting my 2 ready. I'm getting my 4 ready. Okay, I'm gonna go so slow that I can think about preparation before I do it. And it's gonna be insanely slow. You're gonna feel like you're doing absolutely nothing. You're never gonna ever get better than this. But it will help, believe me. So I'm gonna go in between. I'm at 111. I'm gonna let those go in between my down and up. So I'll be. Oh, and I'm preparing for the next one before I'm even letting off. Whoops. See, I should slow down more because I'm already messing up. Let me try that again. If I can't think and do it at the same time, I don't have it. Now, it may seem like you're not doing anything, but I guarantee you, any skill, you have to start uber slow and get it absolutely perfect to where it just takes no effort at all. You're fully relaxed, no tense shoulders or anything. I can think about going to McDonald's for lunch while I'm still doing this thing perfectly. And really, my cue, the way I would practice, is I can tell I have it like mastered if I'm able to start preparing for the next note before the first note is over. Okay, super slow. Feels like you probably didn't do anything with your life right then, but you're just kind of ironing out. You're telling your brain and your body to communicate in this way, and you're giving it all the ample time that it needs to figure out what it's doing. Okay, so going slow when you practice something is absolutely essential because you're building good habits. You're giving your body time to program itself. So I guarantee you, if you're trying to get up to a speed of like 200 beats per minute with that pattern, I would start it at, that was essentially 50 beats per minute. That's where I would start. And that's okay with me. Because if I can master it at 50 beats per minute, the more I can go up faster having mastered it slower. If I started it at 70 and I was sort of average and I just bumped it up 1 or 2 beats per minute each time, I still wouldn't do as well as if I started at 50, mastered it, and then just creeped it up, because eventually you're not gonna, your increments will go much faster. So going slow is really important. Okay, so I felt like I kind of ingested that, like I really was able to sit with that for a little bit. So I'm gonna go up. I'm just gonna try to do it in time. I feel much better with that right now. Back down. Okay, so if my goal is to get to like 200 beats per minute doing that, that was at 100. I first started at like 50 just to get it programmed into my brain to where I knew it well enough that when I had my first note down, I was preparing for the next note, you know, already. That's kind of my cue. Anyway, that's just me. But I was able to do 100. But what I would do is I would go to something that's somewhat challenging, but that you're able to do perfectly with a little with a decent bit of focus. Okay, so that was a little too easy for me. I'm going to go up to, and you won't have the same numbers. I'm obviously I've been doing this longer than you, but this is an example. Like went slow, got a little faster. I'm going to push myself a little bit. I'm going to try to find the tempo that's pushing me. Let's see about this one. Oh, I'm going to double it. We'll see with this if I can do it. Okay, I'm going to pause there. I actually think that if I was going to keep doing this, I would just stay there. Here's what's going through my mind. I might have played that perfectly and you might not have noticed anything. On the way down to these strings, when I got to here, I really felt great. I was actually like, oh, I totally have it. When I switched directions and I was going down on the strings, all of a sudden it took like all my focus and I wasn't able to like feel really comfortable and relaxed. That's my first tell of, okay, too fast. I should be back it down, or I could just stay there. If I'm still perfect, but it's taking a lot of focus, I can stay there. But the moment you mess up, you need to take it back down a notch, okay? But I'm just going to try and find that threshold. So I'm going to go up to 125 for me. A lot of this is you just have to be honest with yourself. I already had a mistake. Well, that's not much different. But I think I'm going to stay there. I like this tempo. I don't want to go any faster. I might actually back it down to 120. That's good enough. Okay. So I'm going to clarify one thing. I found a tempo I liked. I was playing it perfectly at this tempo, but my mental cue for myself was I was being honest with myself that I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I could just do that all day, every day without even thinking about it. I didn't feel like I could go up in tempo and feel like I was really had it. I would struggle. So if you're there with it, if you're playing it perfectly, but you're still struggling mentally with it or feeling comfortable, that's probably a good tempo to stay at, or you could back it down just a little bit. If you've made mistakes, like everybody makes mistakes sometimes, but if you go like 5 runs up and down and you make a mistake each time you go up, you need to back down the tempo, okay? Get it to a tempo where you're perfectly doing it and comfortable, and then you can creep it up a little bit. This one, I'm doing it perfectly, but I don't feel comfortable, so I'm just gonna stay there. I was doubling, wasn't I? Ah, see? Oh, I'm calling it right now. I'm going back down to 110. I switched the pattern. Okay. Obviously, it's also midnight, so maybe that's an issue. Down to 100. Again, you got to be honest with yourself. I want to get to a tempo where it's perfect and I can just rehearse it. This is the one, I think. See, I made a mistake there too. But that wasn't bad. I made 2 runs before I made a mistake, so I probably would just keep going with that one. And honestly, I would do that for probably like 20 runs. And I was still kind of, one run I felt really comfortable up and down, but the more I did it, the more I felt like it was getting ahead of me and I wasn't on top of it. And so I actually might have even gone down even farther before creeping it back up. But I guarantee you, if you start slow like that and you keep working at it and be honest with yourself about how you feel, if you don't feel quite comfortable, if you don't have it perfectly, back it down a little bit and just wherever you can get it perfect and you feel comfortable, just rep it there for 2 or 3 minutes. And I guarantee you that if you do that, the next time you come at it, like today, tomorrow, 2 days, maybe not 2 days from tomorrow, you'll be able to start at a much higher tempo than you even started with today. You might even be back to this one where I left off, and you might even be able to go higher than that. But really start slow because you're building habits. You don't want to start out rushing your habits, okay? So that's a good example of the nonsense scales and how to use it.